What's going on, guys? Thank you all for watching the video today. Now, last week I introduced my new, hopefully every week, uh, video topic of NFL game superlatives for each week. I debuted it in week 9, made some picks for a few categories, and it was uh, immediately went up in flames as my game of the week, Packers Chiefs. Aaron Rodgers was out due to COVID, so that right off the bat was out the window. And then, all the upsets last week through the NFL pretty much turned the NFL on its head. No one knows what's going on, especially in the AFC these days. The playoff picture remains very confusing, hard to predict. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. But I had biggest blowout. I had Bills versus Jaguars. The Jags won 9-6. I don't think I talked about Dallas versus Denver, but Denver won. That was a big surprise. So hopefully this week I'll be able to do a little bit better with my categorizational picks here. So just getting into my week 10 game picks. For the game of the week, the best game of the week, I got my Packers again. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be biased, but I think this is the most important game this week. Seattle visiting Green Bay on Sunday. Russell Wilson makes his return after about a month, maybe even more, time out of action. He's been hurt with the finger injury. Aaron Rodgers also returning after his 1 week absence. Seattle and Green Bay, long-standing rivalry for the past decade or so. It's a friendly rivalry. I have no hatred as a Packers fan. I have no hatred in my heart for Seattle that much. It's always that goes to the Vikings, that goes to the Bears, even the 49ers these days. I'm not a big fan of them. But Seattle, it's a friendly rivalry. There's always great games. And Seattle, if they want to get back in the playoff picture, and they very well can, because those 6 and 7 spots in the NFC are very wide open right now. Seattle got to start winning soon, and I think the Packers should be able to take this game. But if the Seahawks get going on offense, if Chris Carson also returning in this game, so Seattle getting a lot of guys back on offense. If Wilson can connect with Carson and Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who knows? Jair Alexander still out for the Packers. Who knows? Seattle could be able to get a nice win this week. So that's my game of the week. But as for the most fun game, the most entertaining, the game that's going to put the most points on the board, maybe this is a bad pick because the Chargers have not been quite the same team the past few weeks, but I still believe in them, especially on offense. I got the Vikings versus the Chargers. Herbert and Kirk Cousins have plenty of options on their teams to throw to. I believe Dalvin Cook is playing. I know he had some personal issues going on this week, but I don't think that's going, as far as I can tell, that's not going to limit his actual playing time. So the Vikings with Dalvin, with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, I've even like KJ Osborne and Tyler Conklin, what they've brought to the table for Minnesota this year. That's been a really high profile offense. The Chargers, same thing. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have been fantastic targets for Justin Herbert all year long. Austin Eckler's been fantastic for the most part this year. Jared Cook, Donald Parham at tight end have also been effective. I think that could be a real shootout. Hopefully the Chargers win because obviously I hate the Vikings. And I also want Justin Herbert and the Chargers to get back in that playoff picture. I do think they are the best, or at least the most talented team right now in that AFC West on both sides of the ball. Their run defense has been a little shoddy, but I do like their secondary. I really think the Chargers, if they can get on a roll here, they can beat out the Raiders and Chiefs for that division. So it'll be interesting to see if they get the win this week. But speaking of getting a big win, I think the biggest blowout of this week there's a few options for here. I was looking at Tampa Bay versus Washington, and obviously I'm a day late to this, but last night's Dolphins versus Ravens game would have been a candidate for the Ravens, that is. But the Dolphins, of course, managed to take the upset win, continuing last week's trend of upsets, very frustratingly. But anyway, I'm going to go in and pick the Panthers visiting the Cardinals as this week's biggest blowout game. I think the Panthers, Sam Darnold was already struggling himself, but now he's on IR. He'll miss about a month at least with that shoulder injury. And of course, the Panthers brought Cam Newton back to the team this week, which was one of the most bizarre, random stories of this season, in my opinion. I never expected a reunion between those two teams because the same owner and GM that released Cam Newton is still in charge of the team. So that really surprised me. But Cam won't be ready to play this week. It's going to be PJ Walker, who I think only has one start under his belt in his career, maybe 2 or 3. I forget how many games Teddy Bridgewater missed last year, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter is that the Cardinals, who have been very good all year, their only loss come against the Packers in that very slim, narrow game where Russell Douglas made the game-winning interception at the last second. The Cardinals, both offensively and defensively, are going to dominate the Panthers this week. Kyler Murray's going to have a big fancy week if he plays. I assume he will play, but we'll have to see how that shakes out. And guys like Chandler Jones and Isaiah Simmons on defense should have no problem getting to the quarterback this week. but I expect a big win for the Cardinals as they continue to look like Super Bowl contenders. Now, for the biggest snooze fest of this week, the game I'm least interested in, we got the 0-8 Lions visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers, who did admittedly just win a nice game on Monday Night Football. It took the referee shoving one of the players on the Bears and giving him a fake penalty. That was a whole lot of nonsense. As a Packers fan, I could say the Bears absolutely should have won that game. The Steelers bored me to death, especially on offense. I don't know how they're over 500, and I hope, just like last year, the second half of the year is not too kind to them because the Steelers just annoy me. And the Lions, they looked like early in the year they were fighting. They looked like people were saying the best 0-6 team, 0-5 team ever or something. Last few weeks they've played, they've looked lifeless. I expect the Steelers to win just because they got guys like T.J. Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick on defense to stop Jared Goff and his issues, to say the least. But I could care less about this game, and I'm sure unless you're a Steelers or Lions fan, you could say the same. Now, finally, for the big upset potential of this week, I've got the New Orleans Saints visiting the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans got a fantastic win over the Rams last week on Sunday Night Football, and I do not take that away from them at all. That being said, I'm unconvinced that they can continue to win games without Derrick Henry. The Saints, their defense, while it's not as spectacular as it's been in some prior years, it's still pretty solid. And yes, Trevor Siemian is very lackluster option at starting quarterback, but they still have Alvin Kamara on that team. And I think the Titans defense, which has been pretty solid, I will give them credit. I don't think they're terrible like they were last year, but I don't necessarily think they're actually a top 5, top 8 level defense. I think Alvin Kamara could potentially have a really big day for the Saints. And I think their defense could slow Ryan Tannehill and guys like Adrian Peterson or Jeremy McNichols, whoever they're going to have out of the backfield. I think they could slow them down. I could see the Saints upsetting the Titans this week. But that's going to do it for my Week 10 game superlatives. Hopefully this week my projections of these games works out a lot better than last week. But it should be a really interesting Week 10 of NFL football. So thank you all for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and have a fantastic rest of your weekend.